Rebalancing leadership. Purpose as the compass.
Now, we're talking about rebalancing leadership through purpose. And I'm just going to take you through how we use purpose as a compass and how we adapt our strengths according to business success. Starting with, I could introduce myself in this very formal, professional way with all my experience and a funny picture and talk about that. But this isn't about purpose. This is about what I've done and how I've done it, but it's not about the why I've done it. And really, spending time as a leader to understand your core purpose really drives what you're looking for and how you move forward. So instead of talking about what I've done and how I've done it, my core purpose is around transforming businesses by helping leaders work smarter to achieve better goals. Very ROI focused, but in the way of helping other people grow and develop. That's my core purpose. That drives me, that helps me understand what I'm taking on, what I'm passing on, and how I'm moving forward and the amount of effort that I put in. Typically, senior leaders are going through a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of chaos going around in people's head. There's so much that we have to deal with, so many different variables, so many different things to think about. There's constant chaos, constant pressure, constant stress. And what happens here is that we lose sight of the direction. We get involved in far too much, and we just replicate the engagement in regards to over spending time looking after our businesses instead of our well-being. Purpose-driven leadership can act like a compass in allowing you which direction to move forward to. And then if we can also find getting the right people in the right roles, doing the right tasks that align with their strengths, we not only drive forward, but we also can make people feel better about the amount of effort that they're actually putting in. Typically, purpose-driven leadership starts with the individual. Everything that's happening inside an individual, everything about their inner core is driving their values, but particularly their behaviors. And then those behaviors are driving how they're impacting others in a leadership capability. A lot of the time, development organizations, a bit like ours, will spend a lot of time looking at the outer circle. How can I give you new skills, new talents, new development areas? But actually, if we're not addressing the inner core, all of that knowledge is just being lost because we need to be figuring out what's happening inside in order that it drives outside. So if we put a lot of focus on the inner core, we will change people's values, we'll change people's behaviors, we'll change people's thought processes. When we do that, that's when impactful leadership will happen, because all of the things on the outer circle and the gray circle are all leadership competencies which are being driven from the inner core. I think typically leaders sometimes are reluctant to be vulnerable. And I think it's really important that no matter how amazing a leader you think you are, you have to accept that you can always be better. And that is about showing some level of vulnerability. And that's not just being better at the things that you're good at, but it's also being vulnerable enough to say, this isn't something that I'm strong at. This is not a task that I'm able to do very easily. There's other things that I'm more equipped to do. They fit in my strengths wheelhouse. I'm much more capable there, but actually I'm less capable here. And a lot of research shows that actually the stress points, the over-anxiety, the things which are affecting our personal well-being are actually coming from the areas that we're not so strong at, because I will put in extra effort on my strengths. In fact, sometimes I don't even need to put in the extra effort in order to over-deliver. But those things that I'm less equipped to do, them are the things that I need to be vulnerable enough to say, this either isn't me or I need some help. Even the best leaders can still be better. When we look at the inner core, driving the outer core of leadership skills, we can identify 9 pillars of leadership. And this 9 pillars of leadership has actually existed from the Greek and the Roman times. It's just taken a while to adapt it into what does that look like in the 21st century. But actually, when we look at these 9 pillars of leadership, we understand that you can't be great at all 9 pillars. So where are you excelling? Where do you need to develop? And where do you need support from other people in order to get better and act that way? And what we also see from the 9 pillars of leadership, especially in this model, is everything is interlinked. So in the business, we need to be representing all 9 pillars of leadership in order to drive forward, but I don't need to do all that myself. Here, what's happening about I don't need to do all this myself aligns with my core purpose. So if I know what my core business purpose is, that's given me the compass. If I understand where my strengths are and where my limitations are, and stop trying to spend so much effort and stress adapting those limitations, but surround myself with the support mechanism, that's when I can actually start driving forward and making an impact in the business, but by surrounding myself with those core components of support. These terms get bounced around a lot between stress and pressure, especially in leadership roles. Every leadership role is going to have a certain amount of pressure aligned with it. That's just what leadership is. But the fundamental difference between pressure and stress is the anxiety levels of dealing with things that you are not comfortable dealing with those areas that you have development areas with. And they may be part of your core roles and responsibilities, but as a leader, it doesn't mean that you have to be the one filling that. It means that you need to make sure it is getting filled. So here, the fundamental difference between pressure and well-being and stress and well-being is the amount of anxiety I'm having to deal with to do something that I'm not fully equipped to do. That might be just a natural gap in my skill set, or it might be just something that I need extra support on because I have the potential to be good at it, but at this moment in time, I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the skills. So fundamentally, the difference between stress and pressure is those development areas, the limited potential areas. And that's where we need to be putting some focus on how do we move away from stress into pressure, because we can't get rid of pressure in a leadership role. Our purpose acts like a guidance. I know my core purpose. I know what I want to bring. I know my strengths and what I can bring. So if something's fitting outside of the core purpose and my core strengths, this is where I need to be thinking about how do I compensate for this? The core purpose is cutting through all the noise of you should be doing this, you should be doing that all the way through. And it gives me a sense of, no, hang on a second. This doesn't align with the core purpose, doesn't align with my strengths. It also helps me prioritize. I am typically going to be on it when it comes to my strengths and my core purpose because they're my inner core drivers. That's what's going to give me momentum. So I already know that when I'm looking at priorities, I've already got extra momentum there. With the other priorities, how am I filling that gap? My core purpose, same as a business purpose, would also allow me to make better decisions. Because am I taking on too much? Does it sit with me or does it sit with somebody else? Is this something that I want to be doing or is it one of my team members that needs to be doing this? Am I taking full control and full ownership and actually taking on things which I'm not good at anyway when there's people around me that can support it, and it helps me make better decisions about not just what I'm taking on, who I'm delegating it to, who I'm getting support with from a peer level, and how am I driving things forward? And when you put these things together, you are naturally increasing the speed and increasing the quality without feeling the anxiety of the stress, because this is aligning with your core purpose and your core strengths. So you naturally have that extra momentum without the extra pressure of stress. The other thing about good core purpose and aligning your strengths is it removes the ego out of the room. Because actually, I don't have to be saying I have to be the best leader by taking on this and taking on this and taking on this. It allows you to go, no, I can be the best leader because I'm not going to be taking on this, that, and the other because it doesn't align with where my strengths are. And that doesn't mean that I'm shaking responsibility. I'm still taking it on, but I'm not taking it on for me. I'm understanding who is best placed to deliver this in line with their core purpose and their core strengths, to give them the momentum and increase their speed and their motivation as well. And when we start thinking about those support mechanisms, not just the team below us, but the team aside us, our peer group, this is naturally going to increase collaboration. because we're all playing to our strengths and we're coming together to drive some momentum, drive the quality, and drive the actual impact to the business. When you are thinking about strengths, you can't be good at everything. Everyone's a unique individual, so some people are good at one thing, other people are good at other things. How can we come together to make us good as a united front and drive forward, and really thinking about it in that kind of methodology of collaboration, delivering better results because the strongest players are there together. If you think of a relay race, 4 people running 100 meters and handing a baton to each other, there is a strategic decision about who runs first, who runs in the middle, and who runs last based on core strengths. And ultimately, that's what we need to be doing as peer leadership, is how are we leveraging each other's strengths? I don't expect Usain Bolt to jump over, to throw a javelin. I don't expect him to do that. I expect the best javelin player to do that. So how are we coming together in order to maximize the output of the business? When we do this, when we drive core business purpose and we drive a real focus on maximizing people's strengths by working together to compensate for development areas or limited potential, then we naturally see teams are more aligned. We see a lot more motivation because people are doing things that they enjoy, they're good at, and they naturally have momentum on, which means they're showing their value to the organization, they're showing in the metrics, and there's not this kind of well-being issue because I'm over-delivering without having to spend time working loads of extra hours because I'm doing things which come naturally or in my wheelhouse. It means the business has much more sustainable growth, because everyone's playing to their strengths. And if everyone's playing to their strengths, then we're maximizing our output in the same way as an Olympic team is going to maximize their gold medal output if they're playing to their strengths. So therefore, we see an increase in business metrics, collaboration, which is a big topic because that also has an impact on stress, and ultimately less stress, more clarity. So to finish off the keynote, some key actions that any leader can do is really understanding your true why, the inner core, what is driving that inner core, and how can we actually deal with the inner core. I think the biggest thing that I work with many leaders, and the hardest thing to get them to do is to show that vulnerability and acknowledge that they could just be better. Even if they think they're great and they've got that ego, is you could be better, and just accepting that they might need help, or they might just need to talk about where they do need help, and showing that vulnerability to others at peer group level. Because once you start showing that vulnerability, we can have a serious business conversation about, well, that's a vulnerability for you, but actually it's a strength for me. So why aren't we working together to compensate for that and allowing the business to grow? Acknowledging limitations and failures as well as successes. We're sending a message out to the rest of the business that we're allowed to say that we're not good at everything. That's fundamentally a cascading thing that would add value. And if we align to those strengths, we will maximize output without having to upset well-being, because typically people enjoy working in their strength zone, and typically people find stress working in their weaker zone. That's all from me. We have a stand over there, MadeYou. So if you want to pop by and ask any questions, feel free to do so. And thank you very much for your time and your focus.